Hey there, I'm Chad with Martin Exteriors coming at you with another episode of Pro Talk. We've got Pete Zeminski from James Hardie alongside with us. At the end of the last episode, we talked a little bit about being on site here, some of the best practices and how Pete really makes sure that the crews are doing it the right way. You can have the best product like we talked about, but if it isn't installed right, Pete, you're gonna have problems, you're gonna have issues down the road. So we wanna kind of show you a little bit about what's going on with this house here, some things that we discovered. And Pete, if you don't mind, we're just gonna take a step here. We've got this bay window, we've got some other, we've got brick, we've got a little bit of everything going on here. So as we were tearing some of this stuff off, we noticed for one, we don't have any insulation in here. So that's an issue, right? And then down here, we've got a little bit of rot.
With these types of details, we want to make sure, first and foremost, the guys are trained up on the basic installation practices. So we have our critical to quality components on flashing, clearance requirements, where to fasten the product. And essentially those practices are all followed and translated to making sure that all the requirements are met here on this bay window. So like you just mentioned with the wood rot, we want to replace that so we have a solid substrate to fasten the trim to. In the areas like this where we have this horizontal, we're going to want to flash that, cap flashing with some kind of aluminum.
And as Rob's panning down here, we just want to show everybody what we're seeing here. This, someone had hidden this from, eyesight for a while, but obviously this isn't going to fix anything. As we notice, there's more rot just kind of spreading in behind it. So
yeah, so we'll cap flash this with aluminum. Probably put some Hardie panel over the top of this. I think the homeowner also is talking about getting some insulation behind there for additional R value.
Which is definitely, we wanted to talk a little bit more about insulation as a whole, as this, it's a two, I always say siding is kind of a double-edged sword. It's not just what you see on the outside, but what is behind it that's going to help maintain the longevity of it and really attribute to a nice warm home on the inside. So when you talk about insulation, we can kind of show back behind here. We have another area. We're starting on some foam board, some insulation board. You can obviously see before we get the shake siding that's going to go up. What are we looking at here? What's this pink board?
Yeah, so we've got an insulated polystyrene board. It's going to add some additional R value for the homeowner to the structure and the assembly of the wall. And essentially to tie that all together, we're going to have the installer install aluminum capping here, tape that off to make sure that basically we're tying the door to the wall system, tying it all together.
Yeah, well, nice weather break between the seam there.
And later on, the Hardie trim is going to come over the top. They're going to shoot that in with 2 trim nails every 16 inches.
Okay.
And then later on, install all the shake.
Just shake's going to come right up to that then.
Yeah, filling in the areas right between the trim pieces.
Awesome. So that's going to look really clean, and then you can see here. Now looking just straight above us, Pete, we've got a little bit of an open roof area here. I know with some of the house we've chosen a different product, an aluminum product for the solvent fascia. The homeowner was very specific. This is the front door. This is his entryway. He wants it to really be pronounced in Hardie board. With that being said, what do we have for an option up here?
Yeah, so a couple things. We have a Hardie panel that I think would really accent that really well. You can match to the color of the siding or to the color trim board, or go with a different accented type of look if they want to go with a darker color as well. This house being on a lake, I think the white color is going to look really great.
Yeah, it'll really pop with obviously the backdrop here. With that being said, Pete, we're kind of talking about the insulation board. I really want to see some of the board on the wall, the Hardie board. So if you don't mind, we're going to take a little walk around the back of the house. Let's go down and take a look and see if they got some of the paneling on.
Sounds good.
Well, don't mind our hay bales here as we're in the middle of a major construction project. As you can see, this is a top to bottom remodel. Pete, as I'm walking around down here, I noticed this piece of aluminum along the bottom. What is that and what's it doing for us?
Yeah, so that's basically aluminum coil. The guys have bent it on a brake, and they're tying the foundation wall to the actual structural wall of the house. So we're tying that seam together, making sure we have a nice and airtight seal there. They're taping off that aluminum. And then they have the insulation board over the top, which is also going to get weather wrap. And then Hardie trim is going to come up over the top with the shake siding in the middle there in between the 2 trim pieces.
Awesome. Well, we decided to climb up on the hay and check things out a little bit closer. We noticed that bottom of the wall flashing we were talking about. As you see, we're getting to the end of our project here. My little hole. Basically what's going to happen here is this is going to remain concrete. There's going to be siding over here. So Pete, again, what are we doing with this flashing and what's going on with it?
Yeah, so we've got the insulation board up. Prior to that, we installed the flashing detail. Again, we're trying to tie in different substrates. So we've got the masonry foundation wall here. We're trying to tie that in with the structural wood frame wall. Now that that's flashed, we've got the insulation up. The trim piece is going to come up to that nicely, create a nice transition, and then our siding is going to butt into the trim piece here. So at the start of the installation, it's a lot of prep work with all the flashing and making sure we're maintaining the appropriate clearances, kind of getting things ready for the installation of the actual siding and trim.
So as we mentioned before, it's, you know, when you look at a house across the street that's got the siding all done, you might see the finished product, but what people don't realize is all the work that goes in behind the product itself to give you a nice, clean, dry, warm house at the end of it all. So Pete, we're standing here on the back of the house. We're just getting the rest of the foam board put on. This is a piece of the Hardie shake, the cedar mill finish. So what you've got in your hand there?
Yeah, we got the 6-inch Hardie trim, so that's going to come up to the corner of the bay really nicely there.
Cool.
It's going to run the entire length, and then the Hardie shake is going to butt up to it, and you can kind of see in between the keyways you got the insulation showing up. So when you have the next piece installed on the bottom course before the overlap, it's going to finish it off nicely, and then you're not going to have the keyways showing up as much, and it's going to butt into the trim board.
So you don't see any pink in behind that then?
Yep.
Great. Cool. I appreciate you showing that. So we're gonna do trim like that all the way around these windows then, and all the way up. And what about these corners then? They just go ahead and butt straight ends up, or
they're
they
gonna
got a special cut?
tape off the corners and install the trim on both sides.
So you can see here on that trim piece, I don't know if you can get that angle there, Rob. That angle's gonna match the angle of the bay, and then those two will meet each other in the middle there. Pretty cool stuff.
Yep. So once the trim is up, they're going to mark off all the studs, shoot a 6D siding nail through the shake panels, and then paint in, do any touch-ups, seal off any cut ends, and essentially after that, they're pretty much done.
Well, Pete, I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more progress. We're gonna check back in a couple days when we have a little bit of board on the wall and kind of get a better look at what this finished product's gonna look like.
Yeah, I think it's gonna look great. Can't wait to be back out here with you guys and take a look at the rest of the install.
Cool, stay tuned with us. Check in back in a few days here and see the finished product, or at least more of the progress on it. This has been another episode of Pro Talk with Pete Zieminski.